Mike, can you elaborate on Talia Scott's injury? Anything there?
We'll know more tomorrow. It kind of happened in a weird time when we couldn't get her in to see the doctor. It's very precautionary, and we'll know a lot more tomorrow. But we knew we had 2 days of practice without her. We kept it, believe it or not, in these days and times, to be able to keep a secret. But she didn't practice either of the 2 days, which, you don't ever want to lose a player, period, much less somebody that's played like she has. But it allowed us 2 days of practice. It wasn't like we found out at tip off, which can be tough. So I thought what it did is it allowed our kids to rally around Keats. Keats had 2 unbelievable days of practice, and it carried over. She shot like 80% in practice from the 3. So the fact that she went 2 for 10, it could have been a different deal, but built her confidence up. And Talia was amazing on the side. She was over there, cheering right along with everybody else. And I think it galvanized our group, knowing that we were going to have to do it together. It wasn't going to be, and fortunately against Georgia, you have to do it as a team. It's not one person can break down that zone defense. It requires you to make 2 consecutive actions. And that group practiced really well. We'll get some news tomorrow, I hope. We'll be off tomorrow, and then we'll know what's going to we have a home game against Mississippi State, don't we? Did they win? They were playing South Carolina pretty close. They didn't win. Okay.
Mike, I don't know that you could play any better than you did in the first half. I mean,
don't disagree with you.
Yeah, pretty much flawless. But you knew Georgia was going to come out in the third quarter, and they weren't going to just quit. They were going to come at you. How about the resiliency of your girls to come out and take what Georgia had to give, and not only that, but build on it?
Yeah, I think our resiliency started from, the first half at Kentucky the other night. We had a good second half up there. We just had dug ourselves too big of a hole. So I think we started to show signs of it then. And yeah, we couldn't have played much better. I think we had 1 turnover at half, and it was really late. We bottled up. I still say Javin Nicholson's one of the most dominating low post scorers in our league. There's other ones. I'm not no bulletin board material for anybody else out there, but she's in the conversation. Our defense led to our offense. We really, really took care of it and shared it. And then we made a few, and that built our confidence. I thought our defense led to confidence on offense. And at halftime, we went to the locker room. We really didn't say anything. It was really literally one of those days as coach, you walk in, you're like, don't mess this up. Yeah. So you don't say anything other than they're going to increase the intensity. Don't let that turn to pressure. There's a difference in my opinion between them pressuring us and just in turning up the intensity. And they did. We knew they would come at us, but I thought we weathered it. And not only weathered it, but I thought we took the punch and then punched back.
Michaela came out and hit the first 3-pointer of the game. How contagious is that when you come out and hit a big shot like that to start the game?
I don't think you can put a measure on it. It is absolutely contagious. And with our particular group, those 3 kids shoot so much together. There's 4 or 5 of them that come in, and they all shoot together. And it's one of those, like, when you're sitting over there observing, if somebody's off, they kind of all tend to be off. But if somebody's on, they all tend to, kind of raise each other up. But they feed each other's confidence. Like, they're yelling, shoot it sometimes as they're passing it to them, like shot, as the pass is going. And I think it's, especially with it being Mac, our leader, our kid that hates losing worse than anybody. It started on the plane and in the locker room at Kentucky, and it carried over to today. This is a good Georgia team. We played, like you said, is probably as good as we could possibly play at this juncture, coming with all the circumstances.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned the Kentucky game. Obviously, you guys started slow, stormed back, but there was some momentum there. How important was it to bounce back today and to play, almost as flawlessly as you guys did?
Well, knowing what we know now, it was very important. I couldn't have predicted that necessarily. I felt better at the end of the game at Kentucky than I did at halftime. There's no question. And I think it exposed a few things for us, the toughness that this league requires. It got that back into us. So I think it did start up there. I don't think we play as well as we did today if we hadn't have fought back up there at Kentucky and had a little bit of confidence coming into those 2 days of practice.
And offensively, obviously, you guys were clicking, but defensively also really impressive. 26%, forcing 20 turnovers. Just how happy were you with the performance on that end as well, being down Talia, who, like you've said in the past, is a really good defender?
Just elated and proud that, that there was no questioning. You know, a lot of times when you lose a game, everybody, the sky's falling and everybody wants to change everything and you got to do this. There was none of that. It was pointing out the few things that we could have done differently, and we didn't make those mistakes. But our defense has been stellar. You know, I think, again, I said it on radio, but I want to say it again to y'all, like the job that our defensive coaching staff does, I say something every game about them, and they continue to do that. But then also like Lauren and Marin, who are, you know, redshirting, they take on the other team because we're out of school. So our men's practice team is gone. So between B and Carly Johnson and Marin and Lauren, and then either Christina or Miriam or Jenna, not Miriam, Marin, those guys have to simulate the other team. And it's really hard to do in 2 days, but that they take the coaching from our staff and then they take it out on the floor. And I thought they had us so well prepared. Those 2 days of practice, we knew, like I said, we knew Talia was going to be out, so we didn't practice very long, but we practiced with a lot of focus and intensity. And I've already got 2 players back there going, "Hey coach, I think we need to start practicing like that more often." So it's going to be hard to argue with them at this point.
You mentioned Carly a little bit earlier. It's one thing to come in and, you know, give you good minutes off the bench, but to play all 40 minutes in an SEC game is really impressive. What did she show you tonight?
You know, there is nothing that phases that kid, good, bad, indifferent. She's just steady. So you hoped, you didn't know, you don't ever know how anybody's going to react to that. You hoped, but again, I don't know if I told you all this story, but like she came in and asked me during the off season, could she go and represent her tribe in stickball? Okay. I said, hell, I go. I love stickball. I used to play out in the yard and, you know, throw it. But, you know, do y'all know what stickball is? It's the most competitive. It's the most physical sport I've ever seen, throwing a ball and hitting a pole. And like when I saw what I agreed to let her do, I was like, well, what have I done? But that's just her. You know, that's her. We saw it. Coach P saw it when we went on an early recruiting trip. She played for Coach Billerbeck at Jones, and she's always been that way. So you hope that she would be able to handle it. But for her to do what she did, and I'm going to tell you again, it was mainly what she did defensively. She was in the right spot so many times. I haven't really talked to her yet after the game, but I'm anxious to see how she prepped and got ready for it, because that's a playbook on how to step up when your number's called.
For me, the players mentioned, you know, just flushing the Kentucky game and just moving on to the next game. As a coach, what's the balance between, after a win like this, you want to emphasize the good things, but you also want to get ready because the next game's always around the corner in the SEC?
We brought the staff in, and I ran through about 6 options of things that you can do after games like that. Things we've done in the past. You know, you can watch the film, you can flush it, you can do a variety of in-betweens, and you can do all this. And as we went around the room and kind of talked about it, it became very clear that because the things that we did wrong up there have no bearing on this game. None. Like the things that we did wrong up there, we weren't even going to have to do today. So it's like, why are we going to dwell on that? Why don't we fix that later? Why don't we save those 4 or 5 methods we talked about, and let's just focus on getting ready for Georgia? So I honestly think it's one of those deals, like, as a kid or now as a parent, like kind of doing the opposite of what they kind of expect. Like, I think they were dreading, like, man, this is going to be like, oh man, I know what I did, you know, all that. And you kind of get that sense of relief that that's not what it was. I think it helped. I think we made the right decision with that part. It's easy to say that now looking back. But we wrestled with it. That's a great question, because we do wrestle with that. Do you know, bring them in early? Do you show the entire film? Do you make people take notes on it? Do you do a self-scout? But I do think that after talking through each other and knowing our team, I do think we have a really good feel for our group, because we are a small number, and we were even smaller today than usual. But I think we have a really good feel for what they need the most.